What's up? Welcome back to the podcast. Another episode. DPX talks for about an hour. This is episode 6. Right now it is April 28th, 2019. A few days after Avengers Endgame came out, and that's what I'm going to be talking about. This is the first ever episode of the podcast that I'm doing completely by myself. A solo edition of the podcast. And I'm going to be talking spoilers, and it's going to be one topic for the whole time. That is Avengers Endgame. So, I've never done a video like this, or podcast like this by myself. This will be interesting for me, and possibly for you as well. We're going to talk spoilers, though, so if you haven't seen it, and you want to see it, click off this video or podcast right now. Don't watch this because you will get spoiled. This is a spoiler talk. You can watch my review on YouTube. It's simply just one of my most recent videos I just made, at the time at least. So yeah, go watch that if you want to watch a video about Avengers Endgame, but you don't want to be spoiled. Yeah, watch that. So, let's begin. This is. Sorry, I have a cough. I might be coughing throughout this whole podcast, but with Avengers Endgame, it takes place after the events of Infinity War. Obviously, I will be spoiling other Marvel movies, but you should have seen them by now. But with after the events of Avengers Infinity War, oh boy, the stakes were higher, the emotions were higher, and let me and everything was a lot more serious. Everyone was more emotional. This this movie's a lot more emotional than Infinity War. Let's just get that right. And also, it's worth saying that you should not watch this movie without any prior knowledge on the past 21 movies. You really shouldn't. You need to watch them first. So, yeah, that's that. Um, it starts off with I forgot to write this in my notes for some reason, but no, it starts off with Hawkeye as he was missing from Infinity War. Hawkeye training his daughter how to uh, his daughter to shoot a bow and arrow, and the rest of his family are out there. Um, then his daughter gets a bullseye, which I thought was nice. But then, as she goes to retrieve the arrow, um, she's not there. And then Hawkeye himself, Clint, he looks towards the rest of his family, his two sons and his wife. They're not there either. Then he's panicking. Then it just cuts. I thought that was good. I thought that was a good way to start the movie. Um, that was good. It did set the bar for the movie, as if the bar wasn't already set after Infinity War and after the end credits in Ant-Man and the Wasp. But man, I like that. I mean, no, I don't like seeing people die like that, but I did like that was the way the movie started. It raised the stakes. It made things even more serious, as if they weren't serious enough already. Sorry. And then it cuts to it cuts to Iron Man and Nebula playing. I think it was like paper football or something like that on the ship. They ended up on a ship. Um, and then uh, Nebula ends up winning because Iron Man, or Tony Stark, as I'll be referring to him as at some points, sort of teaches her along the way. So he's like, "You win." Um, so that was cool. It was nice. It wasn't like they were like desperate to get back on Earth. It was more like they were just dealing with the situation. I feel like it would have been too predictable if they tried getting back. If it just started with them panicking, and it didn't. So that was good. And then uh, Tony Stark leaves a message to Pepper Potts. Um, a pretty pretty deep message, if I would say so myself. Um, it was nice. And then after a little bit, you see some bright sun-looking thing in front of the ship. It's Captain Marvel. Yep, Captain Marvel is came to save Iron Man and Nebula. Um, here's my thing with this. I've heard some people say it shouldn't have been Captain Marvel. I think Captain Marvel is fine to save them. You see, in her own movie, she was just very uninteresting and wasn't really that cool, to be honest. But I feel like in this movie, she was she was a lot more interesting. Maybe not interesting. She wasn't in it that much, but she was cool in this. I liked her in this. Um, and then I believe it was uh, Cap, Black Widow, uh, the Hulk, like Bruce Banner, and Rhodey all come out and like try to greet uh, Iron Man and Nebula, and then uh, Tony Stark and Steve Rogers they sort of have a few words together. Tony Stark, I'm pretty sure he said this. I could be wrong because I get corrected all the time when I think I'm right with things. It's weird. But he says, "I didn't bring back the kid," or something like that, referring to Peter Parker, of course. Um, bit strange that that was the sort of the conversation they were having, you know. Because like if you remember, Tony Stark and Steve Rogers were not on the best of terms the last time we saw them. So yeah, it was a bit strange that they didn't like. I don't know. Hopefully you understand what I'm saying. Um, and then Pepper Potts comes and is heartbroken, and then it cuts to everyone in the Avengers room. Tony Stark is just broken right now, and then they're all trying to figure this out, and then Tony Stark sees Thor just sitting down. He's all mad, and then he asks, "What's with him?" And then Rocket says, he feels like he failed. And then Tony Stark says, uh, to be honest, I thought you were a Build-A-Bear at first. Yeah, that's that's fair. If a raccoon just started talking to me, yeah. And then after a few, uh, after this long conversation, um, Tony Stark takes out his heart, and he sort of just collapses. He's not dead. All right, just keep that in mind in case you're watching this and don't mind being spoiled if you haven't seen the movie. He didn't die with this scene. However, then they keep trying to like figure out what they're gonna do about Thanos. Um, and then there's Captain Marvel over there, who's. It's clear that like she never really included herself or anything with the Avengers because she's trying to sort of do her own thing. Like they're all trying to figure out like what they're gonna do, and then like Captain Marvel is just like so let's get him. and then there's one point when they're just talking, and then she just walks away, and everyone asks, "Well, what are you doing?" She Captain Marvel. She's just like going to kill Thanos. And then Natasha, Black Widow, comes out to her and says, "I'm sorry, but usually we fight as a team." And then there's some conversation there, and then Bruce Banner comes up and is like, how do we know this won't end any differently than the last time?" And then Captain Marvel says, "Because this time you have me." And then Thor walks up to Captain Marvel, grabs Stormbreaker, and then says, "I like this one." And then Steve Rogers, Captain America, says, "Let's go get this son of a bitch." That was the first act. Keep in mind, just about everything from the trailers were in the first act. Yeah. Just about everything else was spoiler territory. So, um, then the title comes up. So yeah, let's get this son of a bitch was like the thing that happened before the title went up. And so it goes to it goes to when all the Avengers that are still alive, aside from Ant-Man and Hawkeye, they weren't with them. I'll get into that a bit later. Uh, we're all in the Milano, the Guardians of the Galaxy ship. They all go to Titan. I believe it was. No, I don't think it was. I don't quite remember what planet they were on. I think it might have been Titan. I don't know. I'm not sure. But then uh, Thanos, he's just there. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention they discovered that Thanos used the stones again to destroy the stones. So yeah, now they're really after Thanos. So what happened? Um, I just doing that just made me. Yeah, they get to Thanos, and Thanos is just doing normal things. He's like trying to make himself food and stuff. Sort of just trying to live a normal life, really. Then you can see his face. Half his face is burnt, and then and then what happened after that? Everyone just crashed into his little house, and then um they all sort of like pin him down. Captain Marvel sort of like it sort of has him in a bit of a chokehold. Some other people are sort of like restraining him by holding his arms back, and then uh, and then who was it? It was like it was either Captain America or Thor. Asked like what do you do with the stones? Thanos says like all the like I destroyed the stones by using them again or whatever. And then they have this sort of conversation. Thanos then says, "I am inevitable," and then all the Avengers are like, "He's lying. He's lying. He's gotta. He's yeah." Then Nebula says, "My father is multiple things. A liar is not one of them." And then and then Thanos starts sort of praising Nebula, being like, "Oh, thank you, daughter. Perhaps I was uh, too harsh on you," as he was just trying to talk. Thor just cuts his head off. He decapitated him. Um, yeah, it was like, oh my god, like they already killed Thanos. Now what else is there? So then Rocket asks, "What'd you do?" And then Thor says, "I aimed for the head." That was awesome. I liked that. And yeah, that was awesome. Really cool scene. Sorry, somebody just texted me. Um, that was a really cool scene. it was also a nice callback to to Infinity War, where basically Thor thought it was all his fault because he didn't aim for the head. So yeah, now he aimed for the head, and then it just sort of then there's a time jump. 5 years later, everyone in the theater when it said 5 years later were like, "Oh shit," because yeah, it's a pretty big time jump. Everyone sort of just everyone sort of just moves on from that, you know. Everyone everyone's just well, they're trying to move on. There's a Captain America has a survivor meeting, which includes a nice cameo from Joe Russo, who's one of the directors. He plays a gay character to show that they're all right with gays. Um, so and then it cuts to this rat in this car with this machine, presses a button, and that machine was the quantum realm. So Ant-Man comes out of it, and then and everything is all different. Everything's different. Uh, and he's obviously confused because he's been stuck in the quantum realm forever. Um, so he finds out that everyone is all dead pretty much because he's at this memorial with a bunch of names, and he's looking for he wants to make sure that his daughter isn't anywhere on there. But but then he sees his name on there, which was pretty crazy. Yeah, his his own name was on there. Um, that was oof. So then he goes to his house and he sees his daughter Cassie, who's all grown up, which was crazy. It was like, oh my god. But yeah, this was like 5 years later. But Infinity War did take place much later than Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp. The after credit scenes aren't always they don't always take place right after um, the events of the actual movie. Keep that in mind. So yeah, that was that. Then then Black Widow is talking to few people, kind of like holograms of many people. Um, and and then Captain America comes, starts sort of like talking. Uh, this is probably the most emotional we've seen Black Widow in this entire saga, this entire thing ever. So it was sort of nice seeing her show some emotions. She's never had done that before. Um, and then and then what happened was Captain America comes out. Yeah, they start talking. Um, and then on one of their TVs, um, Ant Man. You can see Ant Man. It's like a camera, like a surveillance camera. Ant Man's like, "Hey, can you let me in? You know me? We met a long time ago." And then they come in, and Ant Man explains the quantum realm to Captain America and Black Widow, and it's yeah it what was I gonna say? It was they end up he says like time works differently in the quantum realm. Like it's been 5 years, but for him it was only 5 hours. So then he's saying if there's a way to go back and get all those stones uh, before Thanos gets them, and then one of the two, Cap or Black Widow, said, "So you're talking about a time machine?" And then Ant-Man says, "No, no, not a time machine. Just yeah, yeah, time machine." So yeah, time travel, everyone. Then they're like, we need a bigger brain and stuff like that. They cuts to Iron Man, who goes outside in his backyard, and then he's playing with his daughter. Iron Man has a family now. Exactly what he was trying to do. He wanted this family. He wanted to just live a normal life, and he's doing that. He also has a normal house too. He doesn't have there's no Stark Tower or anything. So so yeah, that was a big moment. And then uh Cap, Ant Man, and Black Widow all come over to their house. Uh, Iron Man, Tony Stark is he's still like refusing to do anything. Like, nah, no, nah, no. He's he's just refusing. He doesn't want to. He doesn't want any part of this. And it's been 5 years. He doesn't want to lose his family. Um. So yeah. Um. And then they say that they need a bigger brain and everything. So it cuts to them three, Cap, Black Widow, and Ant Man, eating at this restaurant with the Hulk, but it's different, you know. The Hulk is a bit different. You see, this is Professor Hulk. It's basically still Bruce Banner in the form of the Hulk. Like he still talks normally, and he's also taking sorry, he's also taking selfies with kids. That sounded creepy, but trust me, you watch the movie and it won't sound just watch the movie and it won't sound as creepy. Um so yeah, there was that. And then after that, uh Ant-Man's just like a little funny scene. Ant-Man was like, "Hey, you want to take a picture with me?" And then they're just like, "Nah." Then this whole back and forth thing happens, and where Ant Man's actually sort of like, "Look, they don't want to take a picture with me." Then Professor Hulk's like, "Come on, you want to take a picture with Ant Man?" And then and Ant Man's just like, just take the goddamn phone." Yeah, he was the one taking the picture of the Hulk and the kids. So then then they try working the time machine, and then they use they go back to like the Avengers Tower, uh, and then they tried to use time travel, where Ant Man he goes back in time. They tried on him. He goes back in time, and then what happens? He comes back and is he comes back as a teenager. then he goes back in time. He comes back as an old man. He goes back in time and comes back as as a baby. Then goes back in time and comes back as himself. And he thinks he peed his pants. Um, what happens is like they keep trying some more, trying to do some stuff, trying to find an easier way to this. They finally get Tony Stark. I'm not gonna no I'm not gonna go like um I'm not gonna just explain everything. But I did forget one thing. They go to New Asgard at some point around here. They go to New Asgard, and which is still like a place on Earth and everything. Um, it's just they're in like this truck. Thor, not Thor. Hulk and Rocket are in the back of the truck. Yeah, Rocket is with them at some point, and then they they get off the truck, and then Hulk says something, and then Valkyrie comes and says, "You shouldn't have come." And then yeah, that was a pretty cool scene. And then they go over to Thor's house, and you see Thor, and oh boy, did he change like the most, because he's a fat slob. Like even later on in the movie, like like Iron Man, Tony Stark says he looks like the Big Lebowski, and he does. He really does. And he's drinking beer, and then Korg and Meek are there playing Fortnite. Here's what I think about Fat Thor. It's strange. Whenever he's on screen, it's sort of like he doesn't quite fit with the overall tone of the movie. He's sort of like uh, I don't know how to really say it. It just doesn't seem right with him whenever he's on screen. And they all end up meeting together. This is where I should add where Hawkeye comes. They go over to Tokyo, Japan. Hawkeye is just killing bad guys. He's Ronin now. He is angry. He he feels like he's lost a lot of things, which he has. He lost his family, and yeah, that was crazy. They recruit him back though. This is like this is probably the most character development we've seen Hawkeye get throughout any of these 22 movies. Well, he wasn't in all 22 of them, but throughout any of the movies he was in. Any of the Avengers movies, really. He was really only, like, throughout Avengers, Avengers Age of Ultron, Civil War, and now this. He's had the most character development within this movie than he did any of those other three movies. Yeah. Um. So yeah, it gets at some point. Tony Stark is at his house. He sort of cracks the code for time travel, and then he's like, "Holy shit!" Because he ends up cracking the code for time travel. Then his daughter there, who's like probably like 5 years old, is just like shit. and and then it's this nice little scene where he sort of puts her away, like puts her to bed. I thought it was a nice scene. They eventually, like the Avengers, eventually do end up getting back together because Pepper Potts says to Iron Man like you should do this. Like, yeah, you need this. So they go back in time. Keep in mind that not everyone went back all with each other. So what I mean by that is some people went to one timeline, or they're all the same timeline, but to one event, other people went to another event, other people went to another. So keep that in mind. Um, so they go back to New York, 2012. I remember being in the theater and everyone was all excited. Excuse me. That was great. I love that. Um, um, because like, here, because that was like the first team up movie in the MCU and the first big blockbuster in the MCU, of course. So, yeah. Yeah, they go back there, but it was only Tony Stark, Captain America, the Hulk, and um, an Ant Man somewhere in there. The Hulk sort of Professor Hulk is sort of making fun of the Hulk. He's like, "Arr!" He goes over to a car. He's like, ha, ha, ha. I'm not even fucking kidding. He's actually like that. So then, man, that's what happens to me when I talk for too long. It's only been like 30 minutes. Jeez. Then what happens after that is is like Iron Man and Ant Man go to the scene where where the Avengers sort of defeat Loki. Like that scene where Loki sort of like wakes up and then all the Avengers are like standing in front of him, and they're sort of in like the back where the Hydra agents that were in um that were in Winter Soldier in that one scene, well, multiple scenes, but the Hydra agents from Winter Soldier that were that they thought were Shield agents. Um, they were there, and they sort of poked fun at that, like them not knowing that they were Hydra agents, because like Ant Man was like, "Who's that? Who are they?" And then Iron Man's like, "They're Shield agents. Well, Hydra agents, but we didn't know that." And Ant Man was like, "Really? I mean, they look like bad guys." So, and um, they even poked fun at Captain America's suit from the first Avengers movie. Um, and they were like, Iron Man's like, by the way, I just want to say, Steve, that did nothing for your ass. So then Ant Man was like, oh, are you kidding me? That's America's ass. So there's that. So they were what they were trying to do was sort of like distract them and to and then get the Tesseract. Get into that a bit later. Comes up a bit later. Um, then goes to it goes to Captain America, current Captain America, like trying to do things. Yeah. Then he stops and is like, "You've got to be shitting me." And then it shows old Captain America, as in like 2012 Cap, and then he says, "I got eyes on Loki." He thinks that was Loki. Then we get a fight between Captain America and Captain America, and then 2012 Captain America is like, "I can do this all day," and then current Captain America is like, "Yeah, I know, I know. I thought that was a good scene. I did like the fight between the two Captain Americas. They know each other's moves. They're like they're equally matched. They're the same person. So yeah, and then he says Bucky, like current Cap is like Bucky is alive while 2012 Cap has him in a chokehold, and then he lets him go. He's like, what? And then boom, takes the Tesseract. No, no, he takes the scepter and is like, and puts it to his chest, and then yeah, and then he takes like takes everything. Then we go back to with then we oh yeah, I forgot to say. Then Captain America says, "Man, that is America's ass." Uh, and then it goes back to Iron Man and Hulk. Well, actually, keep in mind Hulk was told to use the stairs as everyone else went to the into the elevator, and there were a lot of stairs, and you know Hulk got mad at that. So then they were sort of like at this lobby area, um, with an Iron Man, Tony Stark um, he sort of disguised himself as a special forces security guard, and then he let's see, and then Ant Man goes over to 2012 Tony Stark, goes up like sort of towards his heart, and then uh, and then sort of does something. They all drop the case. Then Loki takes the case. No, he takes the Tesseract, and then he goes somewhere else. He leaves with it. So that creates an alternate timeline where Loki actually really isn't dead, and his development in the Dark World and in Ragnarok are non-existent. That's gonna be I bet you that's gonna be explored in the Loki series coming to Disney Plus. Um, yeah, we're already like about we're already nearing 40 minutes into this, and I didn't even. So let's sort of try to speed things up a bit. Um, we get to Rocket and Thor as they're at the events of Thor: The Dark World on the day that Thor's mother dies. Um, so yeah, and we actually get a lot more from Thor's mother as well. Here's what happened. It's sort of like he's almost going through a bit of depression in this movie, you know. So yeah, Thor's a broken man in this. He's a fat slob as well. Yeah, um, he's the Big Lebowski. So what happens is Thor's all like moping and stuff. Rocket slaps him in the face and says, "I lost the." No, he says, uh, "I get you're upset that your mom is gone, but she's gone, really gone. There are other people that are only kind of gone, and we can help those people. I lost the only family I had." And he names everyone from the Guardians of the Galaxy and says, "Will you stop crying?" And yeah, and then Thor's like, "I can do it. I can do it. I can't do it." He runs away. They separate. Rock has no clue where Thor is now. And then he's sort of hiding behind like this wall or something. And then he turns around and he sees his mother. His mother knows. She was sort of doing, being a a stereotypical, maybe not stereotypical, but like she was saying like mother things. Like it seems that the past few years haven't been nice to you. Um, she knew that that was a future Thor. Um, so um, uh, fuck. So then they sort of start talking and stuff, and then Rocket finally finds Thor, and then they and then uh, what happens is that they're about to leave, and then Thor goes, "Wait, can't tell what I'm doing. I'm raising my hand out." He tried grabbing his hammer, uh, not Stormbreaker, Mjolnir, the old hammer, the one that broke. This was before it broke, so yeah. And then and then he grabbed it. He's like, "Yes, I'm still worthy." So yeah, he is still worthy. Then they go at a different time, and then we go to Guardians of the Galaxy with it shows the beginning of it. Peter Quill, Star Lord, is dancing, singing, but then it sort of shows a different perspective. Nebula and War Machine, Rhodey, are there. Uh, and then really, all they just see is just him dancing and singing. Uh, and and then War Machine, Rhodey, he's sort of given like some of the best lines he's ever had before. He's like, "So he's an idiot," and then Nebula's just like, "Yeah," and then they just knock him out. And they sort of just knock him out, and then they grab the orbit that had the what was it? I think it was the yeah, the Power Stone. Forgot for a second. No, it was the Power Stone. Um, and then um, so then they're about to leave. Uh, so they go 3, 2, 1. Rhodey leaves that time, but Nebula stays. Well, I sort of skipped a part. Turns out that Nebula wasn't the only person finding looking for the soul, not the soul stone, the Power Stone. It was also 2014's Nebula. So yeah. So yeah, that was that, and um, and then Gamora comes. That was the past Gamora, and sort of helps out Nebula. So then, going back to where Rhodey left Nebula by accident, it sort of like glitches out, plays a scene from Guardians of the Galaxy, and then Gamora and past Thanos and past Nebula are in like this meeting sort of, and past Nebula plays what the conversation between Rhodey and Nebula, and then we go to then we cut to some other things. Uh, oh yeah, I must. I'm not even really going in order right now. But then we get to we get to my bad. We get to um fucking Iron Man, like Tony Stark and Steve Rogers, Captain America. They they blew it. Like they can't really get the 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 Tesseract. Um, so then they go to 1970, which wasn't really any sort of wasn't quite where any movie was sort of based around or anything. So they sort of separate. Um, it shows Iron Man, Tony Stark. He meets his father. This is where you're like, all right, he's gonna die. They need to give him like everything before he dies. So he meets his father. He has a nice conversation with his father, and then at the end of it, he sort of gives him a hug, where it's like it was strange. And then at the end of that part, you see Jarvis, like young Jarvis, which is almost like young Vision. So, yeah, that was yeah, it was pretty big. And then at one point, you see Captain America in in this office. Next door is Peggy Carter's office. So yeah, there's that. I forgot to also mention that possibly the last ever live action Stan Lee cameo was also there. Um, and it was a young Stan Lee. Yeah, that was great. Um, yeah, then we go to I'm not. I don't think this was next, but then we go to um. No, I believe this was next. We go to uh, Black Widow and Hawkeye. They're on Vormir. Keep in mind this was the planet with for the Soul Stone, and then they meet up with the Red Skull, and they're told a soul for a soul. One person has to make the sacrifice, then the other person receives the Soul Stone. And I should have known. I should have known this going into this movie, but I didn't. I didn't know it. I didn't know this was gonna happen, and I was surprised that it was these two. Um, sort of like it was hard because Black Widow has a movie coming up. Then Hawkeye, I mean, you're just developing his character right now. It'll be a bit strange if you killed him off already. They get into this conversation like Black Widow doesn't really have a family, and then Hawkeye does have a family that they can save. So they start fighting each other over who's gonna kill themselves for the other person. Ultimately, it's Black Widow who dies. I was shocked. I couldn't believe that. That was. However, Hawkeye did end up getting the Soul Stone. Then everyone went back in time. And they noticed everyone was back, but not Black Widow. I'm sick. So yeah, it makes this sort of sad moment with like they're all like they can't bring her back, so she's gone. Black Widow's gone. So the Black Widow movie is almost definitely a prequel movie. So it was that. So then they start making a new Infinity Gauntlet to put the past stones in it, and then they end up doing it. Hulk puts it on. and then actually does the snap. He snaps his fingers, and then you see Hawkeye. He gets a call from his wife, who died in the snap at first. Um, and then yeah, but then like this huge missile comes from the ship and basically just blows up a lot of the area they were at. They were on Earth, by the way. So um, that was a crazy scene. Then a bunch of people are sort of drowning in water in a bit, and then there's this one scene where Hawkeye's running away, getting chased by these alien thingies, and then yeah, some more things happen. Iron Man, Cap, and Thor, they all come. They they and they get confronted by Thanos. It was like it was a 3-on-1 as the other people are trying to escape that part, and then it turns out like uh Hawkeye ends up giving the the Infinity Gauntlet to Nebula, but it was like past Nebula who's trying to help out Thanos. So yeah, everything just got confusing at this point. Um, so then we get to um, uh, jeez, um, um, what happens next is like they're all fighting, and then Thanos uh beats the shit out of the three of them, Iron Man, Thor, and Cap. And then as he's fighting Thor, he tries to summon Mjolnir, but then Mjolnir goes back, and Captain America grabs Mjolnir. Captain America is worthy to hold uh to hold Thor's hammer and starts being all professional with it. Boom. Sorry, I just got excited for a second. Everyone in the theater went nuts when that happened. And then, however, even with Mjolnir, at one point it was just too much. Thanos brought out his giant army, and all there was at that moment was Captain America. But then he hears something. He hears like a message. That was not the message. The message was, "Hello, hello, Cap. This is Sam. Sam Wilson, the Falcon. He died in the snap." He's like, "Look behind you," or something. Then you see T'Challa, Shuri, and Okoye. Okoye didn't die in the snap, but whatever. Uh, they come. Falcon comes. Everybody comes. Oh my god, that was such an awesome moment. Even people that even like some remaining Asgardians that weren't killed by Thanos, yeah, probably died in the snap. They came. A bunch of sorcerers came. Even like people that didn't die in the snap came, like Valkyrie, and like and and everyone that was sort of trapped inside like the flood and everything. They all came, and even Pepper Potts' rescue, which is basically a female Iron Man, came. And then they're all lined up, and then Captain America goes, "Avengers, assemble!" Everyone in the theater went nuts with there too. And then there was just this big war. It was awesome. There was this one scene. yeah, I'm not gonna go in order here. There's this one scene where uh since I haven't seen it that much. I've only seen it twice. One of which one of which wasn't even like fully. I sort of watched it on. I didn't go to the theater. I sort of just watched a stream of it. Sorry about this. It's probably the most disgusting episode of the podcast I've ever made. But uh, yeah. At some point, uh, uh, one of the Nebulas killed the other one. Yeah. It was sort of just glossed over though because I believe current Nebula killed past Nebula. That was the only part of the movie I really found like confusing. You know, I was just two of the same characters just going. It was, and they looked the same too. It wasn't like that much to. Yeah. Then they get into like this war, and then this ship from earlier that shot down after the second snap. They brought everyone back. Uh, it they were shooting at some star-like thing, some sort of sun-like thing. It was Captain Marvel, who uh hopefully can boom right through the ship. Ship exploded, fell down. Somehow did not hit anyone, and somehow only just happened to luckily and safely land in the water. Yeah, I must say that you can actually nitpick this shit out of this movie. There are a lot of just dumb things that happen, but maybe we can talk about that a bit later if there's time. I don't want to make this too much over an hour, but then it's also worth noting that there's a scene with Scarlet Witch and Thanos. Scarlet Witch goes like, "You took everything from me." Thanos goes like, "I don't even know who you are." Keep that in mind, because that is uh, uh, Thanos from a different time. So yeah, he doesn't know who Scarlet Witch is. So then she goes like, "Oh, you will." Scarlet Witch beats the shit out of Thanos. Like, you gotta watch the movie, or if you have, you'll know what I'm talking about. I don't want to discuss too much there. So then after Captain Marvel comes, uh, Spider-Man is holding the Infinity Gauntlet, trying to keep it safe. Uh, a nice like little thing happens between the two. Spider-Man, he's just like, "Hi, I'm Peter Parker," and then Captain Marvel's like, "Hey, Peter Parker, you got something for me?" She grabs the Infinity Gauntlet, and then he uh, Spider-Man goes, "Hey, how do you know you'll be good or whatever?" Basically, like, how do you know you'll be safe, something like that. And then, like, all the other women in the MCU uh at that in that scene in this third act all came and helped out Captain Marvel. They all just happened to like be free, not be in any fights at the time. They all just happened to be right there, and yeah, that was I found that weird. Like they all just kind of stopped what they were doing. Either that or they weren't doing. They were just watching fucking paint dry or whatever. But I thought it was a cool scene. Um, and then we go on a bit later. Um, we go on a bit later. Like, not that the rest of this fight was boring. It was actually very, very, very entertaining, but a lot of it just sort of speaks for itself. So you're better off watching it than me having to explain it to you. But then later on, Thanos grabs the new Infinity Gauntlet. Like Captain Marvel comes with this sort of like force shield around her, trying to grab the Infinity Gauntlet. A really cool scene. Thanos headbutts, uh, tries to headbutt her, but it doesn't work. The shield is stronger than Thanos. So, for those of you who haven't seen it and are predicting Captain Marvel defeats Thanos, um, this is where that theory or that guess is debunked because Thanos sort of just actually beats the shit out of Captain Marvel, and then an Iron Man comes and tries to steal the Infinity Gauntlet. He steals the stones though. Thanos doesn't know that, so he goes, "I am inevitable." He snaps. Nothing happens. He checks. He checks. So yeah, he checks. All the stones are gone. Goes over to Iron Man, who has his own Infinity Gauntlet, sort of, with the stones all over. Then he goes, and I am Iron Man, which is the quote that started it all. Then he does it, and all the bad guys are dusted, including Thanos. And then, but that was see, Thanos is almost like some sort of godlike creature. Hulk, who also did the snap earlier, is like he's this mutant green monster. Iron Man's just a normal dude, so this took a lot out of him. And then Rhodey comes, he starts getting upset. Spider-Man comes, he's pretty upset. And then Pepper Potts comes, says it's okay, you can rest now. His heart turns off, Iron Man dies. And then this very touching scene with the funeral with everyone in the MCU in this movie that's still alive. We're all there. Um, Black Widow didn't really get anything though. That was sort of strange. I didn't touch on this in my review because it was a spoiler-free review. But like not even like a picture that they put up of her, like nothing. But it was still a nice scene. It had everyone, even the kid from Iron Man 3. Remember him? He was all grown up. He was just standing by himself. Even him, he was even in this movie, in this scene. And at the end, you see Nick Fury there. It's the only time he was in this movie, but oh, that was oof. That scene. Then it sort of just like cuts to certain things. Finally see Thor joins the Guardians of the Galaxy. It's pretty funny scene. They sort of like argue over who's the leader. But then Star-Lord says, "I'm the leader." Thor's like, "I know," and then he starts touching things. He's like, and then Star-Lord's just like, "You say you know, but then you start touching stuff like this is yours." And then they agree that Star-Lord's the leader. Hopefully, we get Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and it's the Asgardians of the Galaxy, and we get Thor in it. I want to see that. And then we get to the scene where Professor Hulk is sending Captain America back in time to return all the Infinity Stones. And then Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Sam Wilson and Bucky are there. I think you can tell what might happen here. Jesus Christ. They send him back in time, and then they're supposed to see. It takes uh for Captain America would be however long he needs for for Hulk and Bucky and Sam. It would just be like 5 seconds. So then Hulk was like, "All right, we're gonna count down 3, 2, 1." Doesn't come back. He doesn't come back. Um, which is strange. And then they go to they go to no that as Professor Hulk's trying to figure this out, Sam and Sam Wilson and Bucky sort of see they see him sitting at a bench. So Sam goes up to him, and it's like a 90-year-old man. It's Steve Rogers as a 90-year-old man. And then he figured, you know what? I'll have that date with Peggy Carter. And he gives Falcon the new shield. Falcon's the new Captain America. And then it shows back in time Peggy Carter and Steve Rogers having their date that Steve Rogers promised her long ago, and the movie ends. So yeah, I just explained the whole movie to you. But uh, if you haven't seen it and you've listened or watched this entire thing, um, first of all, what the hell are you doing? Second of all, you're better off watching it if you want to get a full understanding. Um, if you want to get a full understanding, you're better off watching the movie than just hearing me talk about it, because the movie will tell you things a lot better than I did. The movie will tell you a lot better, tell you things a lot better than anyone could, really. Because I'm just talking about it. The movie is like showing you what happens. So yeah, with this spoiler review, still a 10 out of 10. When I reviewed the movie, I counted spoilers. I just didn't talk about them. So yeah, it's still a 10 out of 10. I think it's a 10 out of 10. It's a low 10. Like if it was like out of 11, let's just say if it was out of 11, it would be like a 10, like a 10.5. It would be like a 10.5. It wouldn't quite be there. But it's like an amazing movie. It's great. If you like the MCU, you need to watch this movie. Now, I'm gonna just talk about, what I think this means for the future of the MCU. Obviously, we have Spider-Man: Far From Home. I heard somewhere that that's gonna be the end of Phase 3. That should not be. That even though it's the same, I guess like comes out the same year as Endgame. That should not be Phase 3 though. It really shouldn't be, because this is like the epic conclusion. It's literally called Endgame as well. Like this needs to like conclude it. Um, as for what I think this means for certain characters, the whole Thor, he seems to stuff for him is sort of just getting started. And Chris Hemsworth, like he said as long as we get Taika Waititi, who is the director of Thor Ragnarok, he'll play Thor as long as he wants. And then so yeah, as Guardians of the Galaxy, hopefully Thor is in the Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and hopefully Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is not a prequel, which it already presumably isn't. Let's just hope so. But I mean, what this means for the rest of the MCU, we really didn't establish who are like the new faces of the MCU. I actually honestly thought that Iron Man, Cap, Hulk, and Thor were all gonna die. I mean, Iron Man died. Cap isn't dead, but like he's he's like in his 90s. He's not gonna fight anymore, and he probably will end up dying at some point. Um, Thor is a member of the Guardians of the Galaxy, so that he's he sort of took a back seat. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention he sort of he gave leadership to Asgard to Valkyrie. So Valkyrie's the it was over just a firm handshake. I said handshake. Yeah, I wonder what that means for the for for Valkyrie. Um, and then they still got the Hulk. They need to do like a Professor Hulk movie now. Like we've established the Hulk. I feel like if you get the right people, like Mark Ruffalo is a good Hulk. So if you get the right people and stuff, you can make a good Hulk movie. So yeah, um, yeah, um, oh yeah. There is no after credit scene or anything. However, there was a sound, um, which I'm pretty sure was a nice little tribute to Iron Man. It was the sound of him forging his uh, his armor. Yeah, that was such a good movie when I saw it. And I honestly don't understand why people like wouldn't like it really. Like I actually like don't understand like what you wouldn't like about this movie where you think it's a bad movie. Like I recently just got a comment on one of my videos that told me it was on my it was on my Endgame review. Somebody said, let's see, hopefully you see it. Stupid ass movie is Endgame. Like, hopefully you can explain it, but like, it's almost like you say that this movie sucks. You're almost insulting the entire MCU. Like, it's just like I honestly don't get how you could dislike this movie if you like the rest of the MCU. Like, it's impossible to dislike this movie. I'm not sure if there'll really be any replacements for Iron Man and Captain America. I did hear somewhere that it's supposed to be Captain Marvel becoming the new face of the Avengers, but that wasn't. She was barely in this movie. So, who knows? Who knows? Um, yeah, I think that's it. That was this episode of DPX Talks for about an hour or so, whatever. Yeah, let me know. You can hopefully next podcast we'll talk about the latest in news and stuff like that. Um, uh, yeah, this will be it. Hope you like this. Uh, also join my Discord. There's literally a channel for podcast requests, and you can send me them. You can ask me questions, and I can talk about it in my podcast. So yeah. I'll see you guys. Bye bye.